episode number 35, with Alex Assassinato Fitzgerald. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton.
This is AJ Assassinato Jr.
You excited, man?
Yeah. Sure, Steve. Whatever you say. I can't believe you put me in this position here.
You know, I was, after we talked last week, I was like, okay, maybe I need to do a little bit more research on Alex because up until then, you know, I'd heard his name and I just figured we had some of the same friends, you know, Jacob and Carlos and Mark and the TPE guys and Ben. And then I did some research and holy God, this guy is a rock star, man. He's good. I guess you already knew that because you sounded pretty informed last week and I was not, but I've since done my homework and yeah, we got a real superstar here. This is exciting. You
don't really follow the people and personalities of poker. You're into just I want to get better. You're into the game 100%.
Yeah, I don't watch the news. I don't. I get my daily or my weekly news information from you for about 10 minutes once a week while we spit here on this podcast. So,
do you sweat the main event at all? WSOP.com. Who's doing well? That kind of stuff.
No, I don't. I probably should.
It doesn't. It's not going to really help you grow as a player. It just kind of adds to the excitement of the game, maybe, or a few people who are in it. And for any WSOP event, if I look at like the day 3, the top 100, I mean, I'm probably going to know 20 of them at least. You know what I mean? So I know a lot of the names. Of course, I played a lot more tournaments than you too. So I actually play against a lot of these people too. But
yeah, I don't really pay attention to the names or anything. Yeah, no, I really don't. I'm just focused on getting better.
Well, yeah, Assassinato, of course, one of the a great player, but also for his coaching and his coaching videos. He was one of the first who was very active in that aspect of it back in the day, Pocket Fives. So yeah, he's been doing coaching and making videos for very long, and he's just a very unique personality. Of course, is why what really draws people to him.
Yeah. I listened to his podcast. I started listening to that, and I like it a lot. I downloaded all the episodes, and I'm going through them one by one now. But yeah, the format that he has of the Ask Alex thing, where people write in questions, that's pretty good. I like it. But so, how's the last week been for you? How's Oceans treating you?
I think I might have been barely a little bit ahead last week. I won $3,100 on like Friday, which saved my week because I had a couple. Old Mike had returned for a few days there.
Okay.
Being kind of gambly. So yeah, not a great. I've only played. I have not played any Bovada since the win. Since that. So I told myself, although there's a lot of high value tournaments now, I probably should be. But I think this week I'm going to grind Bovada pretty hard and work a couple days at Oceans during the day.
Okay.
But yeah, I got registered as an Uber driver. I went down, had my car looked at.
Oh, you did do that. Okay, cool.
I've been approved. I downloaded the application. Now I'm going to watch a couple of videos, and then I want to Uber it like 1 or 2 days a week.
Okay.
Just to have some money flown in outside poker.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you never know. Maybe I'll just murder Bovada, and
yes.
and like money's just not going to be a stress in my life. But yeah, it is funny how when I have just a few dollars in the bank, just how like I went out a few nights with my roommate this week and went out for drinks, talked to girls, and it's just this is something I could not have done 2 months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When life had me by the throat. So anyway, so I'm happy with things. Just had a nice weekend with my son. Went to the Padres game yesterday.
Oh, cool. Did you have fun?
Good day for a baseball game. Yeah, it was sunny.
Good.
And he wanted to read his Harry Potter book. He's on book number 6.
Okay.
So more than watch the baseball, but yeah, like I said, he's his mother's kid. He just thinks sports are. I'm like, Jonah at Padres. He's like, why would anyone care who wins this game? He's focused on the large things in life. He understands that people like me who care about who wins a game are somehow shallow, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah. That's cool.
How about you? You've been working hard, America's CardRoom there, or what?
Yeah, last week I've been this week I probably maybe did 10 hours, something like that, which is good for me in a week. And I had a final table appearance, and it was we had an issue on America's CardRoom for about 45 minutes. It was just signing everyone out, and there was just a huge amount of lag time, and if you were lucky enough to stick through a hand, you would probably win it just because it would time out for the other guy, and then you'd win the pot. And so I went to the final table. I can't remember if it was a six-handed tournament or if it was nine-handed, but we were down to six. And then it just got so laggy that I'd been on hold with America's CardRoom for like an hour. Eventually what it said, a screen came up and it said, payouts, we're sorry, we cannot complete the tournament. Payouts will be paid according to America's CardRoom rules, which you can find online or something. I couldn't find it, but remember James Gettinger from the TPE house?
Yep.
He tweeted at me and he said, yeah, that happens fairly often. I said, well, how do they figure the payouts? Because I was fourth in chips, and fourth place was like 420, but I ended up getting like 560. And he said what they do is they do a half even split, and then the other half goes according to ICM. And I had quite a bit amount of chips, and there was one guy that had like 2 big blinds and another guy that had like 7. And but then the top 4 were pretty close within each other. So that's why when first place was 1,200 and I was fourth in chips, I was able to get almost half of that. So it
worked out.
Yeah, it worked out. Can't complain about that. I would have liked to play down, but whatever, things as they were, it didn't work out too bad. And I did a coaching session with Tony.
Oh, that's
Tony
right.
Huff, the listener. And that went really good. We reviewed a tournament of his. It was something like 200 hands. Took us about once we got going and we figured out Poker Tracker, probably took about 2.5 hours. But found a big major leak that he had, and I'm really curious. We're going to do it again in 2 weeks, and I'm curious to see how his game is going to change after plugging this. And
do you think the fact that he was sleeping through this, he might have trouble in absorbing some of the information?
But it was a lot of fun. I want to do that more. I want to take on 2 more students and make this a regular thing. Go over a hand history review with them, twice a month, once every couple of weeks, and do this as a regular thing.
I would be imagine that would be very gratifying to actually just watch your pupil get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's to verify not only your own skill, but just, as just to help someone else in life.
Yeah.
I have never helped anyone do anything, of course, but I'm just curious what it feels like. So let me know the progress there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And, things that I was pointing out, he was like, oh, I never saw that before. And then when it would happen again, he would pick up on it before I had a chance to say anything. He's like, oh, there, I'm doing it again. I'm like, okay, good. It's sticking, And so that was fun. Yeah. So if you're listening and you want some coaching, hit me up on the email or Twitter.
If his problem was bet sizing, that was one of the interesting things that jumped out at me from Alex's scoop videos that I watched.
It was bet sizing,
where he used random.org. So he would just press it between, if he knew he was going to bet over 1,000, you put in 2 numbers and it will randomly come up with a number. So if you put 1 and 1,000 and the number 223 comes up, his bet is 12,223 or 1,223. So
really?
He would actually use a program sometimes to just do random bet sizing. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Interesting. Okay. I never, that's an interesting point. Yeah, I told him, right now, what he was doing is on all his big hands, he was just betting a lot, like pot or sometimes even more. And on his mediocre hands, where he'd have 10-8 and the flop would come queen 8-2, he would bet half pot or usually less. And I'm like, well, anyone that plays with you for a fair amount of time is going to pick up on that instantly, and they're going to fold to your big bets and call or raise all your small ones. And he's like, yeah, that's a good point. So with him, we're going to do just half pot bets from now on. Throughout, for all his hands, and then from there, then we'll be able to kind of, once he gets that down, then we can go a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger than half pot, and kind of play around with third and 2/3 and like that. But just standardize everything, and then from there, then we'll kind of build on that. But
I mean, sometimes, if you think your hand reading is well and you got a good sense of the guy's range, the river, obviously betting full size pot is the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, and not really even worry about if you're balanced. I mean, if somebody if you got your aces and someone insta calls on the turn, well, not that I need to explain it to you, but just
that'll be the next lesson. Yeah, that'll be the next class.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, like c-bet sizing, I agree. If you just came up with one number and you stuck to it every time, I don't think you'd be wrong there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Turn and river, I would say that it's more like reading the board and your opponent's range, and but
yeah.
Anyways, do we need to work out a strategy for this interview? I'm still nervous about the interview here. Not to speak. I think I don't know how much time we have, and if you want to discuss hands, I also want to get into some of his personal stuff. So let's not waste time with how'd you get into poker kind of stuff. Let's just assume. I already know this stuff, even if you don't know. So I'm just.
Oh, okay.
Not to speak to you, but like I just said, let's just assume. I already know a lot about the guy. Let's not, like you talk. Hey, I just learned last week that you. You know what I mean? Kind of just like
that you like the color blue.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? Just that let's assume that we both know a fair amount of them and just, get into it kind of thing. That's,
Okay.
I don't know if it's gauche or that I'm speaking, I just want to let you know that, I mean, I'm enjoying the time that we're going to get to talk to him. So, I don't want to.
Yeah, me too. Do you have any cash game hands from Oceans?
I don't. I just leave the hands to you, Steve, because you pick out good ones too that create interesting stuff, and he'll be able to go. That is interesting. How so you took hands from his tournament, hands that he's played.
Oh, for the podcast here?
Well, I thought you went and watched the scoop videos. We're going to ask him about a couple of hands he played.
Oh no! I got hands from a on the bubble of a tournament that I played. It was a 55. Shoot, it might have been the one that we ended up chopping because it timed out. I'm not sure. But I got some questions for him about bubble play. And because before I went to the WSOP, I was all about around the bubble, just abuse it. And it doesn't matter if you go out and min cash, like just, if it doesn't matter if you go out and miss the min cash, just play and raise and just go for it and force them to get a hand and build a stack. But then after coming back from that and talking with you and a bunch of other guys, they're like, no, min caches are important. If you're sitting there with 7 big blinds and you can, there's only one more person and you can fold your way to the money. There's some marginal edges that you don't want to take. And I think I found several of those on, in this tournament, and I want to ask him about it. Like, what's the importance of min caching? Is his attitude more like, what I've heard over the last month or so is that, min caching is really important, or is it more of the mind of, no, just go for first or nothing? So I'm curious to get his perspective.
Yeah, I can tell you his answer.
What do you think?
If you'd like. No, well, there's something between, I mean, it's between first and nothing. It's like between first and min cash. There's a whole, I'm assuming he's going to say he never cares if he min caches.
Okay.
But, there's another thing to say I'm only going for first. I mean, at some point you got to, you're going to take ICM considerations in it, that has to matter. That's usually not in the bubble. That's usually, later in tournaments.
Yeah.
But no, I don't actually know his answer. I'm just saying.
Speculating.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know if we want to wait. I guess I could try to reconstruct the one, I guess the biggest hand I played this week in cash.
Okay.
I'm just going to make the numbers up. I didn't write it down, but I think I sort of know what it was. Guy opened on the button to, let's say, $25 on a 5-5 game.
Okay.
And I called.
In the small blind or big blind?
In the small blind. And I had Queen 10 of hearts.
Queen 10 of hearts. You called the 25. And the big blind?
And the big blind also called.
Okay, so you got 75 going to the pot?
Yes.
Or 75 going to the flop? Okay.
And the flop was, I think I'm remembering this right, it was nine of hearts, 7 of hearts, a black deuce.
That is a pretty flop. Okay. And you're first to act.
And I check.
Okay. What were your thoughts on checking?
I think I started this hand with like 2,000, and this guy had me covered.
Okay. The button, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much super deep stacked. I mean, I don't know. I just checking would be my. I'd be checking my whole range there for the most part, unless I had maybe top 2 pair or something. I was really trying to build. Yeah, I guess I could have tried to seize control right away, but I mean, if you lead out for 50, what happens if he bets big? Makes it.
Yeah, what if he pops it to 200? Then you're kind of in a rock and a hard spot. Yeah. And what about the big blind? How many chips did he have?
I do not remember.
Okay.
So I check, the big blind checks, and the button bets $50.
Okay. 50. Okay. You're definitely calling this.
I just quickly call.
Okay.
And the big blind folds.
Yeah, 50, big blind fold. Okay, then we go to the turn. We got 175 in the pot.
Right. And the turn is, I believe, the ace of diamonds.
Ace of diamonds.
So
okay.
Ace, 9, 7, deuce with 2 hearts. And is there any reason to lead out here, you think? Try to rep 2 pair or?
Boy, the jack of diamonds would have been nice. Jack of hearts would have been nice.
I mean, what am I? Well, how many aces do I have in my range? I mean,
yeah.
More often I have like a pair or a draw, right?
Yeah, unless you had like ace 3 of hearts, in which case you're probably check calling. Would you lead out there with or probably check raising? Would you lead out there with the ace 3 of hearts, or would you?
Yeah, I think I might. That might be one of the few hands I lead out with. Or if I hit a set on the flop and slow played it.
Yeah.
Now would I lead out and hope he has an ace and build the pot?
I think so. For me, I probably would have led on the flop with the set. But if that's your standard line to.
Well, there's no standard line. I'm just saying that's one way to play a set here.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't mind checking or leading out. I don't know that you can check raise because you can get blown off your hand and you really want to see a river.
Right. I would say so.
Yeah.
I check and the villain bets $100.
Bye, honey. Have fun. Saying goodbye to the wife real quick. Okay, I'm sorry. The villain, you check, and the villain what?
Bets $100.
I don't see anything to do but call. I think if you raise here, say if that was something like the jack of diamonds on the turn, that I think is a real good point for like check raising or leading out. But you can only really catch a heart, possibly a 10 or a queen that are good. Yeah, I think I would just check call here. It seems so weak, though. But
yeah, I mean, the other thing is if you hit your flush here, are you getting paid?
Yeah, it really looks like a flush draw.
So I think that's a concern as well. But I check call.
Okay.
So now there's $375 in the pot.
$375, yeah, going to the river.
And the river is another deuce. I believe it's the deuce of diamonds. So the final board is 9, 7, deuce, ace, deuce.
Okay. I don't know. He's just played this like he's got 10s or better or something.
Well, are you always are you always check giving up? What are you thinking at this point?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, his hand really looks like he's just been value betting a pair like 10s or better, unless he had something like king, jack of hearts, and I mean, what do you?
I think pocket 10s or jacks. He probably checks back in the turn, but I could be wrong. If he's reading me for having one pair, then the ace doesn't really change anything. But I think most players would check back in the turn. Well, I mean, let me just tell you, my read is that he has an ace.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he has an ace. And if he bets on the river, he definitely has an ace.
Okay.
So, a move a lot of people would take would be just to put a pot-sized bet out right now and try to steal it.
Okay.
Rep that you hit trips somehow. Although, I really should rarely have a deuce in my hand. Maybe ace deuce suited somehow. Ace deuce of spades or something. So I already decide I'm either check giving up or gonna check raise.
Okay.
Make it look like I slow played a monster, and I boated up on the river.
Okay.
So this is, of course, will involve, if he bets, repping a extremely narrow range, because I'd almost never raise with a weakish ace, and I almost never have a deuce in my hand. So I'm pretty much, there's only two hands I'd be repping here, which is the pocket sevens or the pocket nines.
Pocket nines, yeah.
Or maybe quads,
Yeah.
So he makes it 300, and I wait for about 8 or 9 seconds or whatever. I kind of, and then I take some chips out and I make it 900.
Okay. Man, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes if I've got like ace queen or ace king there.
I probably should have written the hand down from his side. But if you knew it was me, you'd know that of course, it's the old adage, people are never bluffing on the river.
Okay.
So immediately people, I'm not going to, he took a pretty long time.
Mm-hmm.
I would say over 30 seconds, actually maybe even over a minute, pretty long time. And he sighed and made the call, and he had ace king of hearts. So if I hit the flush, would have lost about the same.
Yeah.
But he had the flush blocker, so it's hard to put me on a missed flush draw.
Yeah.
And I thought I could get him to fold ace jack or ace queen there, and I thought I'd get the crying call from ace king, but I thought, even that, I should have mentioned the guy just sat down 5 minutes before. He had moved from the must-move table.
Okay.
And and he just looked competent. I don't know, Asian guy, 30 years old, and definitely someone who thinks about before they put chips in the pot.
Yeah.
So like a more amateur player would just ace king, whatever, he has to call, but he had to break it through. But the reason I found this hand interesting, where I'm like, I actually took a pretty good line, I thought, but if the whole hand just didn't work out for, like, if I had a set, why wouldn't I raise the turn? Maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Although I'm not always raising sets just because there's a flush draw out there. You can't be worried about the draw all the time. You know what I mean? And therefore, when you miss a draw with a set, you can also make your villain can also say, "Oh, he missed his draw." So,
yeah, but still, even if you don't bet the turn, then why didn't you check raise it with the set?
The same reason, because I want to wait till the river, I suppose.
Okay.
I want to let him lead the way. I guess maybe I'm trying to rationalize it afterwards, but I think at least if you have a set, I think I called pretty quickly on the flop, and I took a few seconds on the turn, but certainly like a set, you'd be like, I wish I took 20 seconds on each street. For these people, you get pissed off who slow the game down and balance their folding time and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I thought if I took a little more time on the turn, and then on the river again, I kind of just waited 10 seconds before throwing the chips out, which, I mean, I don't know if this made a difference in his calling or not, but I think if I took more time and studied his stack and moved chips around, like, how much can I get out of this guy?
Yeah.
And made it even if I made it, $1,065 rather than $900.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if a different amount, but, he was definitely very close to folding, so I can't kill myself. It wasn't a bad move. And, of course, I saw a couple of the regulars the next day, and I said, well, they were talking about because I was up on the next day, and they're like, well, Mike gave away 2,600 yesterday because he's going to have.
Yeah.
So I asked them, I'm like, what do you think about the bluff there? And one of them's like, I thought you had it for sure. And the other guy's like, he never fucking has it. He's not just going to throw chips like that. He's going to take some time and blah, blah, you know. It's like, he's like, you weren't, you know, so this guy says, he's like, I knew you had a busted draw. I mean, you never know. But
yeah, okay.
Anyways, some of the little things that you do at a live game that maybe can make a difference. And you talk about them sometimes, and I'm kind of dismissive. But here I wonder if I took a little more time on the river and just, you know, came up with a little more exotic bet sizing or whatever.
I don't know. I think because you're repping such a narrow range, you know, like you said, you're basically repping pocket nines, pocket sevens, or on a freaking fluke case, pocket deuces.
Not a lot of draws on the board when he has.
Yeah, like if the river was something like a 6 or a 10, probably not an 8, but something like, you know, 6, 10 or a heart. I mean, it wouldn't work here because he had ace, king of hearts, but something that kind of completed a draw, then I think it might have, your odds of success, or if a jack came, you know, your odds of success would have gone way up. But here, when the deuce comes, yeah, I at least for me, I'd be kind of leaning towards a check fold, just because, you know, you're not repping anything, I think, except those 3 hands, and it's pretty unlikely.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. I still like the
hand.
move. Like I said, I like to said he almost folded, so I didn't feel too bad about it. But
yeah, I like the way you're thinking though, and you picked up something from those guys you were talking about. You're like, okay, next time I bluff a river, I need to take my time and shuffle my chips around, like you were saying. So,
although I definitely think a paired board was the card I was looking for if I was going to bluff.
Really?
I thought he was on an ace. Yeah, I mean, I think on a jack, you know, okay, if he's got the ace 8-10, I got to pay him off. I personally think he would have called quicker if a jack came on the river. I could be wrong, but I think I personally think he would have called quicker than he did with this hand. But like I said, I don't know.
What about a heart? Well, he obviously would have called because he had ace king of hearts, so it's hard to know.
Well, if he had ace king, if he didn't have hearts, he would not have bet the river, probably.
No, that's
if a heart came, most likely.
Yeah, then you would have had to put in the pot size bet, and he probably would have called anyway. So, well, maybe.
I got supersonic speed that I used to run to you. I stretched my arms for miles and miles.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Alex, it's Steve. How you doing?
Good, man. Good.
And this is Mike.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Thanks for joining us here. We know you're a busy man here. You've been podcasting quite a bit, Thinking Poker, and then another one-outer just came out a couple of days ago.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've been trying to put work in, you know.
This might be the most I want to ask about like battle rap and drug deals from back in the day in Vegas, and Steve's trying to get free coaching. So this might be a really disjointed interview here. So I'll try.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. You guys recording now, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're up and running.
Okay. Yeah.
We do about a half-hour intro before we bring the guest on, and then so we've been talking for a little bit, and then we bring you in.
So you
okay, great. Yeah, all right, cool. Well, yeah, fire away, and I'll try to give Steve as much free coaching as you can stand, Mike.
I don't even know if the free coaching will help Steve out here or any kind of coaching. But no. So are you back in Costa Rica, I assume, or?
Yes, sir, I am.
It's funny, I was listening to your last podcast, and it's like, I don't know, America might bring out the dark side of you there a little bit.
Yeah,
you were getting it in with, because I bought your scoop videos, and I'm like, this is the chillest dude ever. I'm listening. Wow. It's like Leave It to Beaver, Costa Rica style. The little dogs running around saying hi to the wife, giving the housekeeper a fat tip, and you're talking, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing, you're kind of just getting in arguments at the table, and of course your battle rap has definitely a violent edginess to it. So I was just I was curious if just going to Costa Rica immediately, it's like you decompress and you're like
Oh yeah, for sure. No, when I'm down here, it's just the whole environment here. Like, people are really easy with their smiles, and they're really nice to people. And something I really like here is in professional circumstances, even if you don't particularly like the person, they'll fake it for that amount of time, which is really all I ask. I don't really expect you to like me if you don't like, I don't expect to have every person like me, but, if we're in a professional business transaction or if we're just in a social setting, let's not just, get into each other's face about randomly nothing. But in America, I guess that's not the case. I don't know. I guess there's an edge to like, I feel like a lot of the younger kids are just narcissistic little crap. I'm trying to find like a word that's not like super vulgar, but a lot of these young, these guys are like 23 years old and they're like, they're so pissed off that like, man, how am I not a millionaire? And they're just like crappy to everybody at the table and elsewhere. And yeah, what really brings it out of me is when there's like an elderly person at the table or like a wealthy housewife or someone who could be in many other locations other than the poker table. Yes. And, there's just 6 of these guys like going off on them for any slight infraction. And then first couple times I'm cool with it. But, the 4th or 5th time, yeah, I lose it. And I don't know. My father's a fisherman. My mother worked with inner city youth. So, like we did battle growing up, that wasn't just for the Saurus. That wasn't just for rap battling. There was a lot of, in the house, like going off on each other. So yeah, I guess just being in my home country does bring it out a bit.
Okay, that's funny. Because, well, the battle rap I had already seen, and I kind of thought you were just like playing this character. But then from this last trip, you're like talking about some guys getting it in with some Spaniard who's, talking about your cock size, and then you're just like, and then again, another guy was pissed off at you just because you threw a 5K chip in there and wouldn't make out the right change.
Oh, yeah, it was, I threw in a 500. No, like 2 people were pissed at me. And like, no, a guy threw in 250. I was twiddling a 500 chip in my fingers. I threw out the 500 chip. Now, I would argue this might be some of the easiest change you've ever made in your life. You just throw the 250 at the person.
Yeah.
This dealer somehow found a way to grab my chip, another Annie chip, and the 250 and throw it at me, and 2 people yelled at me for not just throwing 250 in. And, I don't even think I got into it. I was just, what the F is your guys' problem? And then, and it's like, oh, okay, here he comes, like a self-entitled brat. And then it's all right, like if you want me to be that guy, I'll be that guy. Right. But I didn't. Yeah, it was. I don't know. I feel like in the United States, everybody is just so checked out these days. It's insane. Like everybody's so up in their head and they're so put upon. And I mean, obviously, like I love the United States, but there's a lot of great people there. But at the same time, I don't know what it is in Vegas. Just every year I go there, I feel like. It's just like clown college. Like, I don't even know why I get so surprised. I mean, if gambling is going to attract that element. Like you said, in my home, it's real Leave It to Beaver-esque. It's real, it's so suburban and boring. And then, you go from that to like Vegas. And yeah, it's pretty jarring. And sometimes, admittedly, I don't handle the transition as well as I should.
I think you probably got onto it there too. There's even like guys who are very, very good who go out there and obviously get their ass kicked.
Yeah, no.
And there's even guys who are just desperate for the score. So in that tight situation, mid stages of a 5K, this is their. Yeah,
exactly.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many career caches they have. This is a desperate situation they're in.
That's a really good point that I didn't really even think of. That you make a really good point. Yeah, I mean to. Somebody like me who's been in it for like 10 years, it's just like, whatever, it's another 10K. But yeah, to a lot of these kids, it's, they convinced a backer with too much money to take them on. And, kid was like, well, I'm a baller now, you know what I mean? And I'm going to smoke green and I'm going to go out and, I'm going to make tons of money. And surprise, surprise, it doesn't work because poker players are pretty well educated now. And you got these clean-cut kids coming in from Germany who do nothing but 60 hours a week compound equities on their computers. And, yeah, they don't do that well. And then it's like, oh, my God, I'm in more makeup than my mother makes in 3 years. And how is this ever? And, yeah, I guess I forget to realize, like, they might get pretty pissy about some random things in that situation.
Yeah, I would think so for sure.
How you used to live in you were born in Washington, right?
I was born in Alaska.
Oh, Alaska. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you started playing online when you were just a kid, right?
Yes, sir. I started when I was 17 years old. A friend of mine loaned me $50. I made $30 that night, luck boxing the crap out of $5 sit and goes. I sent him back the $50, and from that $30 is my entire bankroll. So I can say I never deposited, but it's not like Annette Obrestad. It's not like I was grinding free rolls for like 22 cents and building it up. I really did luck box at the beginning, but yeah, I started when I was 17. That's why on Full Tilt, I'm not Assassinato, I'm the Assassinato, because I had to go through, when I was 18, I had to make a new account. I actually went through like, I mean, I was the easiest guy to pick off ever. I just like made names that were like murder in different languages because I thought it was funny. And like, yeah, it was totally random. I ended up on Assassinato. Like I went through like 5 different languages first.
The good thing about that name is once you go to battle rap, you didn't have to transition. Well, geez, I got to come up with a cool name here.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, it was. They didn't even ask me like. It was kind of like a gag, the thing with Bluff, and then, man, that was such a trip. They were like, would you want to battle Pete? And Pete Thesaurus, right? Yeah. And I was like, hell no. Like, I don't want that guy ripping into me. I've seen what he's done to people. And then I was like, well, and how many opportunities are you going to get to do this? And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And they didn't even like contact me about like, what do you want your name to be? It was just obviously it's going to be Assassinato, but that's okay because I probably couldn't think of anything more intelligent anyway, so I still can't come up with a rapper name. But yeah, it's funny though. Assassinato means, by the way, my dogs might be barking in the background while you hear this, but
no problem.
Assassinato in Italian means like you killed yourself. So it's actually like
suicide?
Yeah, I mean suicide. It's actually a really bad name in Italy. So it's yeah, people are like, man, that's an awful name. Holy, And then yeah, but obviously, well, not obviously. In Portuguese, it does mean murder.
Okay.
Yeah, just going back to the battle rap. Oh, sorry. Steve.
Oh, go ahead.
Goddamn coaching in, Steve. No, I was just going to ask. I don't know, because I know you're into like movies and books and stuff. And if I ever like, there's just like a great line in a movie, I'm always like, oh, the writer must have just jumped up from his computer and like loved himself for that line. I was just curious if there's any of like if you go back and watch the Saurus battles, are there any of the lines like for first
jumped out?
Yeah, like I was just gonna. I know the one that got the crowd the most excited. I think where you were like, "You might be as good as Stu Unger one day. I'll always be there to rob you. Call me Stu Unger's cocaine." I thought that
I was pretty proud of that one, mostly because everybody looked at me like you're a horrible person when I said it. But like,
well, you had a couple of lines that qualify into that banner too. Yeah.
No, I mean, I guess that's just how I think. Like I used to front like death metal bands when I was like a kid, and like that's just kind of how I think, and not like violent, but like, ooh, how could I combine this to make like a dramatic line? That's just kind of how I came up thinking about those kind of things. And then when you get to battle rap, it's like in death metal you get to like, you say like 10, 12 lines and that's about it. And then, if anybody understands you, that's bonus points. In battle rap, like if people don't get you, like the whole crowd dies. So it was like it was a really cool challenge. The line I was really like gassed on was, hold on, let me see. All my gun bars are Junior Seau obvious. They're all no-brainers because it takes, I think it's like the perfect amount of time to like get a line. It takes like 1 second. Then
you got to pause and think.
Yeah. And then I notice like when I hear jokes in Spanish and I have to translate them in my mind, just the 1 second, I don't know. It's like being on a roller coaster and like looking down the precipice, like looking down the mountain, like just that like second of, oh crap. Like once it finally like hits, it like hits a little more. But yeah, I was really gassed on that Junior Seau line, but that was the one that got me invited out to do the thing in Dallas.
I was going to say that's funny because Plan 9 brought that up. He's like, you did come up with one good line, and then says that. He's like, that was the rest. He like did a pause.
Yeah. No, it was. I think I did a pretty bad job. I think he won that battle. I honestly, I needed to make a trip to the States anyway because I was buying a bunch of equipment for my wife's band, and like literally, like you'll buy like a setup in the United States for like $500. You import it to Costa Rica. They have like an 80% tax on electronics. Then you got to pay somebody to like move it down here. So like along with like frequent flyer miles, I was like getting paid to go out to Dallas if you like actually did the math, because it was saving me so much money. And then I was, him and I were like talking on Twitter, and he was like, oh, we were like, we should battle. And I was like, yeah. And then like, if you watch his other battles, he doesn't do that well. So I was like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to say some really mean things, and I'm going to win this battle, right? Because I get the idea these guys don't like him anyway. And he comes out with like 20 pages of like real orchestrated, like
Right.
multi-syllable. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm cooked. Well, that was fun, but yeah, it was a good experience though.
How about your overall? Do you like? Were you a better rapper then than you were against Soros? You think? I mean, it looks like you were.
Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
I was just going to say it looked like you had a better, maybe a better idea of like against Soros, you were just like so pumped and amped. You were just like ripping the lines out. Where against Plan 9, I thought you're like, well, you're kind of changing the rhythm up. You'd pause when you knew you had a good line, give people a chance to laugh at it, kind of shit,
Yeah, it was. I definitely. The other thing is, it was like a super small. Like, at first they were going to do like a gym, and like. I thought, oh my God, the acoustics and that are going to be amazing, right? Like, so I was just going to come out and like, I was really going to let this kid know who was boss. And then like, it'd just be so loud. I thought that'd be really cool. But like when I got in there, it was like such a tight, like it was one of those things. It was such like, they had to change it last minute. So we're doing it in this bar. And it was like such a tight environment. I was like, if I come out like screaming at this kid, like it's going to be so awkward, and it's going to feel so weird. So yeah, I just, I took it a little more chill. I definitely didn't think, I kind of like, I wrote it more like punchline heavy, just more for like shock value, because I wasn't really paying as much attention to like, the rhythm and flow. I think for the next battle, what I've actually been doing for the next battle is I've just been writing bars like over a beat. So whether I like it or not, it kind of has to fit in the same syllable count. You have to like the problem with battle rap, as I've been taught by someone much better at battle rap than myself, is there's no beat now. They do it all a cappella. So you have to supply the beat. So if you're just doing random couplet after couplet, like random punchline after punchline, it's not really rap. It's more like a very angry rhyming stand-up comedian, which is fine, but you're not going to win in a rap battle if the other guy's actually rapping, which I think happened in my first two joints. But
right.
Yeah, so I've just been like, I turned on like a very basic beat in my wife's little makeshift studio. And whether I like it or not, it really does have to rhyme like every couple. It does have to rhyme like every few seconds. And then what I've been writing much more now, I feel like, wow, this is much more monstrous. But I've had like 3 battles like fall through, or like people like back out at the last second. Okay. So it's like, man, I just want to get, I just want to get it in, man. It's so fun.
Yeah,
have you watched
like
on
you've got
YouTube?
all this tension built up, and you got to,
somebody
just accept.
Yeah.
Speaking of tension, I was going through some YouTube videos. I saw a couple of these rap battles that ended with one guy getting punched in the jaw.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
because I was going to say you're not real cognizant of personal space there. You're getting right in the guys.
Yeah.
Like I'm just saying, I'm sure that would depend on who you're going against there.
Do a lot of close talking.
You wouldn't be getting that close to Suge Knight, probably.
No, I wouldn't. Suge Knight, I'd be keeping my distance. Like he could be trying to give me wet willies, and I'd just be running the other direction. Like I would not be taking offense to anything. But no, like yeah, I mean, like definitely, like I think I kind of took advantage of the situation with the source. Somebody who I've now realized is a massive troll told me the Soros had some like devastating personal on me, right? And I was like, what the hell could that even be, right? And then, what I took it as is the guy was going to be like real personal, right? So I was like, well, I'm just going to go in from the beginning, and then it's going to look like, he's just trying to like buck the trend, you know what I mean? He's going to, and like, at the beginning, he like, I think it was more like a breathing thing, but he couldn't even start because I thought my like first round was like really going in on him. And then he had like the most polite battle ever. And I was like, wow, I really just took advantage of a guy being really nice.
Right.
And like, I felt horrible. Like, I mean, that was totally the way to win the battle, right? Like, just like, look, man, I'm the real rapper. Like, I'm going to keep it rap, And then, But by the way, he's never going to be able to swing on me in the Rio. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, he's going to get kicked out for life. But yeah, like when I was going up against Plan 9, it's like his hometown. It's like his place. Like, you know, you can get into the guy's face for like a second, but if you're like delivering the whole verse, like up to, you know, and you're close enough to like see what he ate for lunch, you're probably taking it a bit too far.
Spelling the chicken wings on his breath.
Yeah, exactly.
He bragged about bluffing you off a hand with 6 high. I think that's about as personal as he got.
That was, no, he brought up the Swan Lu hand, which I honestly thought was hilarious. Like, I was, yeah, you know, you got me. He even told me, like, before the battle, he was like, I got something that's going to cut pretty deep. And I was like, damn, man, like, this is, you know, whatever. I've heard, sorry, there goes, hold on a second. But, like, I mean, like, I've heard it all, but I was like, damn, like, in a public forum. And then, like, his personal line was the Swan Lu line. I was like, dude, that's not personal. Like, 2 million people saw that, you know? Like, that's all right.
Well, I think he joked about your house in Costa Rica. Maybe was.
That was good.
That got a pretty good laugh from the crowd.
That got a pretty good laugh. Actually, it didn't get a laugh from the crowd because the security kicked the crowd out for round 3. So it just sounds like we killed. It just sounds like we killed the crowd in round 3. It's just like, yeah, it's just wow, man. Like we're sick of this rap battle. Let's go play poker or something. So yeah, it was pretty weird. Like. Rapping in front of like 2-3 camera people, and I think they only use like one angle the entire time. But yeah, it was still, you know, like I said before, a fun experience.
Mm-hmm.
I also quickly, I guess we can start getting some of your plugs in. The One Outer podcast you have.
Oh yeah, I never bump up the show on other people's shows.
Well, no, I mean, I just went specifically about the podcast, which is interesting. And of course, we're the same way. Steve loves the strategy, talking about how great that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was interesting. You know, I know you mentioned Adam Carolla a few times, and I'm sure you've probably heard this from a few other people, those who follow you on Twitch. It's like, gee, man, why don't you just kind of leave poker behind and do like a show where you're just, you know, you're talking. Like I enjoy the part where you're talking about which movies you're watching and your views on life. And
I appreciate that, man. I mean, that means a lot more to me than the poker stuff, because it's kind of like with poker, it's like I love like talking the strategy discussion, but it's kind of like, you know, if anybody teaches you how to fix a car, that's kind of how it is. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing in me like showing you how to like change out your like engine or something like that. So when I hear that like something I actually created myself is interesting, that means a lot. I appreciate that, man. No, I've you know, I like doing the podcast. I like talking for money. It's nice, but it's one of those things. I think it's really crowded. Like everybody and their mother has a podcast now.
Sure,
it's like obviously
we're proof of that.
Yeah, obviously not as good as your fine gentlemen's piece.
Oh, thank you,
but,
sir.
You know,
Thank you.
Yeah, but you know, it's one of those things. I'd love to do it, but I think I don't know.
First of all, you can't put Barry out in his ass, right? He'd be helpless.
Yeah,
he?
Yeah, exactly. Barry needs the charity. You know what I'm saying? But like,
you're a busy guy. You're a busy guy, but it's just like a couple times you talk about a book, and I'm like, well, you know, why not bring the author in? Or, you know, like
exactly,
have the act, whatever movie or show you're talking about. It's like, you know, you probably could get this actor in to talk about this movie if you wanted. You know, I don't know.
That's true. That's true, because most of the movies I talk about are hyper obscure or something. So I'm sure they don't have anything to do. We'll give you $25 and a Snickers bar. Just like be on Skype for 40 minutes. But yeah,
here's some expired peanut M&Ms.
Yeah, exactly. That's weird. That's the second time M&Ms has come up this morning in my office. Like somebody, no, like a guy I was talking to was like, you can have any routine. His name's John Woody. He's like my mental coach. He was like, you can have any routine when you come up to the computer. It could be opening peanut M&Ms and only eating the brown ones. It's just got to work for you. And it's kind of weird. He just brought that up. But like, no, I mean, I like to talk about the movies and books and stuff like that. And I think, like, honestly, my plan is to pay off my house and save up money and to go away from poker for just a little while to see if I could actually write the great American novel, or these days, like the great American self-published novel, because apparently, I don't know, all my friends who self-publish are making way more money than everybody I know who traditionally published got an advance of $5,000, $10,000, and they don't see a dollar from it. Like a dollar after that, after like 5 years. So,
wow.
And yeah, so it's like, I kind of want to go into self-publishing because that kind of fits my, just show up and work. And there's something nice about like writing webinars and stuff like that, which is if I write a webinar for 4 hours, like it doesn't disappear because of variance. Whereas, like the least of my efforts when it comes to like making something consumable by the public seem to be rewarded, where even some of my best efforts in poker don't seem to be rewarded because obviously it's cards. But so yeah, I think, eventually I want to hopefully bring as much of my audience that I have right now into, like, hey, let's check out the book, let's check out what's out. And then, if we talk about other books and we geek out about that, I hope they'll geek out with my own stuff as well.
Yeah.
I actually follow your reading a little bit. You got a lot of spiritual, philosophical books. Is that, I mean, for nonfiction, does fiction, is that kind of what draws you into? Like someone who's addressing big questions. Is that, I don't know, is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah, no, I definitely, I felt like I got no real education as far as that growing up. And really it's your framework for everything in life. If you know why you're getting to the office every single day, you will put in much more work than the next guy. And I've always thought there's never been a time in my life I've really thought, like, especially with poker, like I'm smarter than other people. Like I've always been pretty convinced I'm pretty typical. But if you have a reason for showing up, at the office at 8 o'clock or your desk or I call it my office because that gets me in a working mood. And, you work from 8 to 6 every day. You're going to beat the guy eventually who, he taps out for a few months because he's not feeling it. Or, he's just going to play. He's just going to play when he's feeling good, which tends to be, after a couple of years, you're not as enthusiastic about poker as you used to be. That's just how it is. I mean, that's how it is with pretty much anything. And yeah, now I'm starting to like reading nonfiction. I've been reading a lot more about like what it takes to attain mastery. And they're finding pretty much no one attains mastery without like tons of work. Like there's no such thing as a prodigy. Like
10,000 hour rule. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I have. And they're actually getting, well, here's the funny thing. Like you've probably driven your car for 10,000 hours, yet you're not Mario Andretti. Why? You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like everybody, like I didn't mean that as an attack on your driving. I'm sure.
No. Point taken. Yeah.
No, it's interesting because like they're talking about, well, it's got to be 10,000 hours of like purposeful, painful practice. You have to kind of be like trying to attain something that's just outside your grasp. And they, if you like look back at like David Beckham, like he would just go to the park. Like, honestly, the kid sounds like some guy who has Asperger's as opposed to like this world-renowned Calvin Klein model now. Right. Because he would just sit there for 6 hours and do the same kick. Sometimes he wouldn't even have the ball, just the same kick over and over again, trying to get the form because he just believed in numbers. And Andre Agassi, he got fired at 2,000 balls every single morning with that machine that ruined his life that is his father created. And everybody has stuff like that. And I'm starting to realize, like, the later I get into life, it pretty much all it is work ethic. And work ethic comes from, like, a solid framework. It doesn't come from, if you're trying to make money and you think that's going to make you feel better, like, it's not like the exception to the rule, but I have a client list of over 1,000 professional poker players, and it is the standard that when they make a ton of money that they do not feel good. They feel like, is this all that there was? Whereas if you're in poker, like trying to become like a better person, like if you're trying to become more patient, more deliberate about your decisions, trying to make the most of your budget and your life and your free time, I think you can learn every single time you play, which will increase your work ethic, which will put you in a greater position to attain mastery.
Speaking of work ethic, I thought this was good. Your write-up about the Pinball Hall of Fame, or what is it, the Pinball Heaven? What was
Pinball Hall of Fame. I think that, I don't know. I don't even know if the guy who owns that place knows the name of it. Like, if you saw the pictures,
the sign was broken down. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty. I don't know how to put it. It was pretty gnarly looking. It was pretty bad. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna. I had a little light bulb moment. I said, well, maybe this is the difference between a good amateur player and a real top pro, because you talked about how I think you were going to go for a couple hours, but you wanted to stay to work on your multi-ball game.
Yeah,
and I'm like, and there's a pizza place in Carlsbad, California. I go with my son, and we do play pinball ahead of time. And it's like the two balls come out, and I'm just like, it never occurred to me that like, oh, I got to change my strategy now. I usually
really?
just, maybe you can tell me, because I always just, my theory is I always just focus on at least one ball, so I'm not going to lose two at once. Where, like if the other one happens to bounce around and get me extra points, that's great, but I don't want to lose them both. So, I mean, maybe you could get into...
You're free rolling. Yeah, no, I'll be honest with you. I've never really thought about it, but now I never really thought about it before I went to the Pinball Hall of Fame, but I've just recently been thinking about like everything in your life is practice. You know what I mean? Practice is a kind of a loaded word because like if you played like American football growing up, practice was not a fun thing. You know, it was just like go out there and, don't drink water, you'll cramp up by those geniuses. You remember that? You couldn't drink water because you were going to, did you? Was that
I did wrestling. It was the same thing. Yeah,
don't drink. Yeah, I did wrestling too. Don't drink water. You're gonna cramp up. And it's like, okay, like I'm sweating 2,000 calories, but that's fine. But yeah, no, I mean, practice is kind of a loaded word, but God, there's a great coach. What did he? The way you do it might have been Mike Ditka. It might have been Lombardi. I'm not sure who, but it was like the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And that like just blew my mind when I heard that. I was like, dude, that's right. Like, because I used to be like a hyper impatient person. And, my wife like just yelled at me the other day. It was like, you don't know the light switches in our house. Like you don't know what light switch goes to what thing. It has been 2.5 years. This isn't a space you're renting and you're going to move on to. You own this place and you've never paid attention to the light switches, right? And I was like, dude, if I don't pay attention during the basic things, how do I expect myself to pay attention? And everybody, now there's this new thing with like, you watch like Sherlock or Hannibal and I get so sick of this, like, he's a genius, don't touch him, man. Give him a second, He's gonna figure it out. He doesn't have time for typical things, man. He's so focused on what he's focused on. And now every jackass kid now is like, I'm a genius too, man. Don't expect me to do normal things. Well, no, like, the way you balance a budget, the way you respond to email, the way you talk to the postman is the way you're probably gonna play poker, honestly. And, like, I was at that Pinball Hall of Fame, and I was like, yo, man, I've never focused on how to play pinball. Like, I've never tried it. Never in my life have I tried to get better. I always did exactly what you were talking about, Steve. I would just, I hit the ball, and, whatever happened, happened. I was like, yo, man, I'm going to work on my multi-ball, because that's the one thing. First of all, I was trying to hit targets because I never can hit the targets, and I started getting a lot better at that. But then I kept having multi-balls happen, right? And I was like, I have no idea what to do. And I was doing what you did. I focused on one ball, then all the balls would hit all the other balls, and I'd lose all of them. So I found one self-serving machine in the back where you used to spoon-feed your own balls, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to put 5 balls in and just work on that, right? And it was real easy because it was like a slider slope. But what I didn't realize is with the 1950s machines, apparently our like grandparents could not play video games like worth a crap because eventually I just had like 8 free games on every machine. And it was like, I wasn't that much better at pinball. It was just like, it was just purposeful practice. And I was like, if I can't practice purposefully here when I'm having fun, how am I ever going to do it when the pressure's on? And if I can't have fun with it when it's something that's actually really fun, how am I going to have fun with it when it's something like, I don't know, cooking up a webinar or a training video, which actually is a lot of using calculators and using poker calculators and using equity Equalabs and using PowerPoints and using Camtasia and lots of other stuff that's not quite so fun.
Yeah. But is there a dark side to the desire for mastery here? Where did you try to break into the pinball thing the next night? Whether close at 9, bullshit. Try to kick the door down.
I'm gonna hide in the corner under the trash cans.
Yeah, exactly. No, I definitely did. I forgot to eat. Like literally, like nobody. That's actually a really clever question because I forgot to eat for like 10, 12 hours or something, and like like when I tell my my wife asked me about that, and yeah, they were like, she's like, how old are you? You know what I mean? Are you like 12? Like, who does this? And by the way, she's a very nice lady. It just sounds like she's very angry at me in these two examples. But yeah, I mean, there is a dark side. The other thing is like, you can never turn your brain off if you're constantly looking like just to, like, I guess like the greatest example of this is like, obviously I'm nowhere in this guy's caliber, but like Michael Jordan cannot turn it off. Like I have heard stories of him being at Paradise Island, Bahamas during the poker tournament. He's in the gift shop, like buying crossword puzzles, and he's like throwing them at his assistants going, all right, here we go. We're going to go through the entire book and we're going to see who gets there fastest. And he'll do it. He'll sit there for an hour and 40 minutes in the Bahamas working on Sudoku puzzles or crosswords to beat his random assistant for that week or whoever is giving him a tour of the Bahamas. So yeah, there's definitely, at some point you got to shut it off and watch some of the trippy movies that me and Mike were talking about.
Yeah.
Do you thumb wrestle with your assistant every morning just to let him know who's in charge?
No, I don't. No. I suck at thumb wrestling. Actually, I'm really bad at it, but nah.
The stereotype about Latin women being kind of passive. Steve's got a Colombian wife, and she's always telling him to shut up and do what he's told.
Yeah, it's true. No, it's not. A lot of stereotypes exist for a reason, and they're
very spicy. I don't know about Costa Rica. I've never been there, but Colombia, yeah, they little firecrackers.
Colombians are even like, when I'm talking to a Colombian, I always feel like I always like wrecked into their car or something. I'm like, why are you so angry at me? And then
2 seconds later, they're giving you kisses. You're like,
yeah,
okay, what just happened?
Yeah, you're confused. My wife is also Pakistani, so it's 50 Shades of Crazy. So it's like, it's definitely, I love her to death. She's the greatest woman I've ever met, but it definitely took me. Now that I speak more Spanish, I understand it a lot more. Because like when I speak in Spanish around here, it sounds like I'm pissed off when I'm not.
Yeah.
Like my mother is always like, when she comes down here, she was like, why were you so mad at the security guard? I was like, I wasn't mad. I was telling him where there was an abandoned bike that he needed to clean up. That was it. And he didn't understand. And like, now I realize like when it comes to English, like English is like, people forget like English came from German. You know what I mean? And like, if you ever like look at a sign in an airport where it's in like 20 different languages, like English will be the shortest sentence. It's a really like brutal short language. And like in Spanish, they can talk like that because the language is so flowery. Yeah. And it sounds like, it sounds so whatever. It sounds fine. But when they translate it to English, it sounds like this person's going to kill me. Or she's going to cut my brake wires. I don't know which one or the other.
Best case scenario, I have slash tires out of this.
Yeah, exactly. Slash tires, all right. We can replace those.
Yeah, if the car's on fire, that's the next level.
Yeah, then we're not doing so good. No.
You speak Spanish?
Yo hablo español. ¿Y tú?
Yo también, mi amigo.
Actually, yo tengo que practicar más. I need to practice more. The problem here is everybody speaks English perfectly, so
I've heard that.
Yeah, I will speak in Spanish for like the first couple minutes, and then eventually we'll both get exasperated, and then in 15 seconds explain what took me 3 minutes in Spanish. And I don't know certain words, and I don't know how to conjugate verbs, and I don't know a lot of those things, so I end up restructuring the entire sentence to get around that one word, and it takes me 2 minutes to get around it.
I do the same shit, bro. You know what's getting me right now is the past and future tenses.
Oh God, dude.
Those are tough for me. Like like I was here. Yo estaba acá.
Yeah.
It's like that. Oh man. And then when you get like the odd verbs that everything change, I'm like, oh man, fui and fuiste and.
You know what I do is I just use the infinitive form every time. Like I just, I am going to do this or whatever. And then it's a shortcut because like you think about it. Okay. If you were trying to, they always have you like conjugate verbs in like when you learn a foreign language, like they're trying to do with me and you. There's 20,000 verbs roughly in the Spanish language. So but like in an average conversation, you speak about 200 words. It's like 65% of spoken Spanish is the same 200 words. So it's like, we should be focusing on that 200 words, but every single language teacher would have us do the 20,000 conjugation, which just blows my mind. But yeah, the past, future, and all that stuff I can never get. I always get the sex of everything wrong because that never comes up in our language.
Yeah.
Like, what sex is a bridge?
Yeah, exactly. Is a bridge female or male?
Yeah, exactly. Let me think of
Puente.
this.
It doesn't have an A or an O. What the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. Help. Yeah, and then, my favorite thing is, like, do you have people do this? Like, when you speak Spanish, like, even, like, my favorite is when Americans hear you speak Spanish and they don't speak a word of Spanish. Oh, yeah. And they go, oh my God, you have such a heavy accent. It's like, guess what, asshole? You have an accent in English. Like, everybody, how arrogant do you have to be to assume you don't have an accent? Like, think of that. Who does not have an accent? You know what I mean? I guess translators for the United Nations do not have an accent, and that would be about it. You know, you can get a degree in Costa Rica. Like, they have like a fluency degree, right? And like the furthest one you can get is like complete mastery of the language, which means you can do everything in that language that you can do in your native language. And even in that, like, they don't even care about the accent. They're just like, as long as people can understand you, it's fine.
Okay.
That's funny.
Does your wife speak Spanish?
I'm sorry?
Does your wife speak Spanish?
Yep, fluently. Yep, that's her first language.
That's cool. My wife and I have the same thing, and there's all these little situations you kind of get in where the two of you have this little secret code. You know, if everyone there speaks Spanish, then the two of you talk English, and they're like, huh. And then, or if everyone speaks English, then you got Spanish. And she speaks Portuguese as well, and I want to learn that because there's not too many people, at least in California, that speak Portuguese. So
no, not at all. Where'd she pick that up?
She lived in Brazil for 6 or 8 months when she was. She used to be a flight attendant, and she went to flight attendant school over there.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's really...
And then we met down in Colombia, and then back and forth for 2 years, and then and now we're married, and she's living up here.
Oh, good for you, man. That's awesome.
The woman I'm dating can open a beer bottle with her teeth. I mean, you know, you guys talk about your sophisticated ladies here. I want to just pipe in with something here.
Nah, I think my wife would attempt that if you dared her. So yeah, she's as sophisticated. It's you gotta be sophisticated and you gotta be silly, right? If you go on one side of the axis, oh my God, I cannot speak. You don't want the pendulum to swing too far to either direction. Okay, that's what I was trying to say 6 minutes ago. Sorry about that.
No problem. So I don't know, Steve, you want to seg into poker here a little bit?
All right.
Maybe we can ask some specific questions. I don't know.
I was telling Mike before you came on, I'm kind of ignorant when it comes to news and even poker news, even though I'm so passionate about poker.
Same.
You too? Okay, yeah. I had heard your name several times, and we knew some of the same people: Jacob, Ben, Mark, Carlos, and I thought, okay, well, I'll email him or whatever and see if he wants to come on the show. And then I told Mike about it, and he's like, "Oh man!" And so I did my homework over the last week or so. And dude, you are a rock star. I was looking up your Hendon Mob and just stuff on online. And ironically, I'm looking through your Hendon Mob right now, and I see the EPT over 200K and another tournament that you won or got third place in for over 100K. But the one that I'm curious about,
he hasn't final tabled the main event. Why do we give a shit?
The one I'm curious about is the 235 deep stack that you won. I've played that tournament probably 15 or 20 times, and the closest I've ever come was 15th. What was it like to go from 3:00 and did you guys go till 8 in the morning or what?
It was 8 in the morning. It was me, the dealer, the French gentleman across the seat from me, and one guy vacuuming. And every time I was trying to think, I could hear the Auric vacuum in my ears. And no, it was the crazy thing was I busted from the main event that day. So I showed up at 11. I busted at 12, and then my wife was like, "Yeah, hey, I was watching you play. Like, you're on today. You should play." And I was like, "The only thing they have is the 235, right?" And she was like, "Well, play that."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Okay, cool." And then yeah, I got in, and yeah, just things started clicking. But like, I bet folded down to 7 big blinds at 4 a.m, and I remember thinking like, I'm near killing myself right now. This is the worst. It was one of those things I led.
Right now, I could make $400 because the payout's only $650.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was one of those things I was betting for value, and then the way the guy jammed, like so resigned, like if you have the first nuts, good for you, but I'm getting it in. And then he was like looking at his cards and ready to turn them over, and I was like, I don't think I'm, I was thinking I was getting value from like pairs and 2 pairs and stuff like that. Yeah. And I was like, I don't think he shoved any of those. I was like, really, 4 a.m? You've been here for 17 hours. You're bet folding with 7X. And I was like, I sat there with like my eyes like an inch away from the felt going like, what have I done with my life? Like, how did this happen? Right. And then 5 hours later, somehow I won it. But yeah, it was a trippy experience. It was everything connected right at the same time. The other thing that helped me is I was so delirious. Like I kept like talking through every hand, and people thought at the beginning that meant I kept having it. They were like, "Oh, he's got to have it," because nobody would be doing this bluff and like talking to you about like your shoes or whatever it was, right? But really, I was just trying to stay awake because I was literally falling asleep at the table if I wasn't talking. And then eventually they figured out this guy never has anything. And then that happened to me when I picked up aces. So it was it'd be cool if that happened in an APT, but 30K is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys didn't chop or anything? You just played it all the way
No,
down?
I was like, screw it, I'm playing it out. So, and then I won a massive pot, like with like 5 people left. And I was, if I ride this into the ground, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I got a few hands pulled up from a 55 MTT that I played on America's CardRoom.
Let's do it, and thank you for playing on America's CardRoom. God bless you, sir.
Yes. I that's all I play now. I got my money off of Bovada, and I'm just doing ACR now. I'm getting coached by Mark, and one of the things he was saying is I need to. My goal is to get back next year at the WSOP. And he said, stop playing Bovada and just only do ACR, because then they can track your results on SharkScope, and that's basically your resume. And so I took his advice.
That's a really good point.
That's what I'm doing.
No, it's America's CardRoom's plenty soft, right?
Yeah. I haven't been having any trouble there. I like it a lot. Good software.
What stakes are you playing? And it's
50s and below. I don't play $5 tournaments. I just play 55 and below. So I'll play 10s every now and then, but most of the tournaments I play are 55, 44, or 33.
Those are juicy, man. That was a good call.
Yeah, I play usually 2 to 3 of those. Sometimes during the week I can't get 4 tables. I don't play more than 4 tables. I just play 4 tables, so I'll have like a 55, a 40, or a 33, and a 33. And then if I can't fill the other 2 spots on the screen, then I'll throw in those $10 or $20 turbos on demand. Have you seen those?
Oh yeah, those are nice. Are you running a HUD?
Yes. Yeah, I got Hold a Manager too.
Excellent. Okay, yeah, it's definitely. I tell people 4 to 6 tabling is what I enjoy the most, just because you get to see as much as possible. But for making money, sometimes I'll 16 table. But if you want to learn about poker, you have to play like 4 to 6 tables. Like there's no high stakes reg who goes, yeah, and I 24 tabled every single day, and now I'm here. Okay. I guess you have to play less tables if you want to really learn. So it's good you're doing that. All right, let's hear this hand. Let's hear this 55 hand.
This is actually kind of a series of hands, and it's on the bubble. We're on the absolute bubble. And the reason I brought these up is because up until recently, I had a different view of min caching. Before the WSOP, when I went out there and talked to a bunch of my buddies, and I was of the idea that min cashing is just that's for the amateurs. And don't worry about min cashing. Just focus on piling and stacking chips in that time and just go for it. And there was a couple of times where I bubbled, and I was talking over with some other pros, and they said, well, maybe that's not quite the right attitude. They said, you had 7 big blinds. What, what are you possibly hoping that he's folding there? And like that. And I thought, okay, they said, well, min cashing is important. That pays for that tournament, and it pays for the next 2 or 3. They're like, those over time kind of plateau or stabilize your graph. And then, when you do make a final table, that's when it jumps up. So I don't know. I'm kind of confused now. And these few hands in this tournament is kind of a culmination of that. Of like before, I would have just shoved these hands, and now I don't really know. So I'm kind of hoping to get your advice on that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. This is it's a really good question you ask, because I find this is something the poker community flows back and forth on, and I don't think anybody gets it really right.
Okay.
It used to be like min cashing was, who cares? Just go for the win. And I think that was a really good attitude back in the day, because first place on PokerStars used to pay 20 to 25%. And guys who didn't give a crap about min cashing were making literally millions of dollars.
Yeah. So
because, first place just meant so much more in comparison to the min cash. Then, PokerStars said, you know what, we don't want another little hold'em making $1 million and then disappearing with the money. That's not really good with our poker economy.
Yeah.
Let's pay out 12.1% and flatten the field and give everybody their buy-in back and a slap on the ass and, come get raked again next time.
Yeah.
And then min cashing meant a lot, and volume meant a lot. So you did have to min cash, because even if you did get a first, it wasn't paying for another 100 tournaments like it used to. That missing 8%. It wasn't paying for as much as it used to. So you did have to accrue these min cashes. Now, do you have another job?
I do. Yeah, I'm a fireman.
You're a fireman. Oh, cool, man. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, sir.
No, it's that's one of those. When people are like, "Damn, dude, what you do in poker is so cool." I'm always thinking of if you handed me a fire axe and we're go into this burning building, I'd be like, nope, no chance that's gonna happen. It's I don't know. It's weird to me when people glorify people who throw chips around. You know what I'm saying? So it's it's really cool. This, and it gives you perspective on how childish some of these people can be. But anyhow, okay, so you have another job. The amount of time you can put into poker is a little more limited, right? The min cashing constantly is really good if you can keep exacerbating that. If you can keep getting min cashes, that's going to slowly creep into your earn. Okay. However, it's not going to change your life if you're not playing professionally. Yeah. However, you're trying to put together a really good graph to get a backing deal, so you might want to accrue a few more of these min cashes. But at the same time, I would get one of these ICM calculators, and something that really helps me is you just, it's real simple. You type in, I think you can even get one on your iPhone for when you're playing live. You just type in the amount of chips in the tournament, how many people are left, what the payouts are, and it'll tell you how much your stack is worth. Now, if you're playing in the W Coupe main event and your stack is worth $4,377 and a min cash is $12,011, you're probably going to want to sit on your hands, and you might find that time bank to be really friendly right about now.
Yeah.
And, I hate stalling, but I totally understand why people do it there, because that's $8,000 in real money that they're going to go up if they just let 3 people bust. Now, if it's an America's CardRoom $50 tournament, and let's say your stack is worth $30, and the min cash is 110, woo! This is a big step up, right?
Okay.
But let's say the min cash is, something smaller than that. Let's say it's $10, $20. It's not as big of an issue then. Yeah. You just want, and also I think also for you, like, it's weird because you're trying to put together this, my Maltese might be barking in the background. That's because she just had a baby, and now everything is apparently a threat to her puppy. Everything. I turned on some metal earlier today. Apparently that was a threat. She barked through the entire thing. But anyway, no, you do want to get some experience, like playing final tables and playing for first, which would make me, like, not always err on the side of caution, but at the same time, and by the way, I know I'm over answering a bit, but you kind of need a framework before we go into these hands.
No, this is good.
Okay, cool. But you do want to err on the side of caution to get that graph looking nice. Like someone who really values his tournament life and really values min cashing are like Cal 42688, who's like a rock star when it comes to MTTs, and Pisagno, who many people think is on the opposite side of the spectrum, and they both have like beautiful graphs. So it definitely, if you're trying to build a great graph, you need to do that. If you're trying to build experience and really be prepared for going into a WSOP final table, you're kind of at odds with that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's hard to make these judgment calls, but if you know these factors, I think you can make it a bit more. Anyways, let's hear this hand.
Okay. And ace-6 it folds. 10-4 it folds, 7-3, ace-king. Okay, so I've got ace-king with 7 bigs.
Okay.
Ace-king suited. Under the gun folds, and then it's on me. We're 7-handed. This is an insta-shove regardless of bubble, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
And were you on, like, the absolute bubble?
Yes.
Okay, so there's probably a lot of people listening going, like, this doesn't seem like... They're probably going like, well, obviously it's a shove, but if you actually put it into an ICM calculator, it's not much of a shove. So like it's good you're asking these questions because I hear a lot of people just get into automatic thinking and then they're like, well, ace nine, first it's like, well, ace jack is obviously a shove, ace 10 is obvious. And then they're going down into things that if you use an ICM calculator, ICMizer, Singo Wizard is what we used back in the day, but I don't really like it as much. You'll find it's not much of a shove here, but yes, it is a shove.
Okay. All right. Then the very next hand, I shove, it gets through. I now have 9 bigs.
Okay.
Under the gun, still 7-handed with pocket 5s.
Okay. And what is the min cash here? And it's a $55 tournament. Do you remember what the min cash paid?
Oh, damn. I don't remember.
Well, if it's a lot, then this can be a fold because 5s is, it is a shove, but this is really not much of a shove.
Okay.
Like if you passed on this, I would never be angry at you as your coach ever. I would be like, I think we might be erring toward the side of caution a little bit too much, but I'm glad you're making that mistake as opposed to just not even thinking about it. But if you shoved, that's what I would do. Okay. I would shove. I think that's actually the right play. So really, like, just the fact you're worried about it, I think is really good because it shows you're actually caring about this. And but yeah, what did you end up doing? I'm curious now.
Well, when I get down to these stages, I always go by the Nash push fold chart, and I just follow it religiously. And I figure they've worked out the math, and that I'll go with that. Right. But then after coming back from the WSOP and having all that stuff running through my head, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do here. And I thought, okay, I mean, it feels such like a shove, and I thought, okay, I know 2s plus here is a shove, so how can I not shove this? And then I thought, I don't know, the whole min cashing speech from 4 different pros. And I thought, okay, screw it, I'll fold. And then I thought, okay, I'll ask someone else about that one.
That's fine. I'd never be pissed at you. Like, here's the thing I want you to know. Poker pros love to go on speeches. Okay. And every 3 years, I see a new cast of characters who just know everything about poker, and they're very sure of what they're telling you when you did something wrong. Now, I'm not saying this is your friends, but I'm sure you've met some of these types, okay?
Okay.
I am never sure of anything. They asked me, some guy, somebody was saying, like, you're probably, like, as far as strategy, I've learned more from you than many other people, right? They were saying that to me, and they were like, what do you think, like, helped you that? And my honest response was, I am never sure of anything. I am always super neurotic. I am always super worried, just the same way you are now. The only thing that helps me is proving it. So if you want to prove this, I would go get now, everybody's going to tell you yes or no. They're going to give you a bunch of different answers. You shouldn't even trust me. You should just trust, what the most precise way you can look into it, which I think would be an ICM calculator. And then you don't want to just trust one ICM calculator. You want to do it on all of them, right? I don't know how much discretionary income you have, but like I've never bought a piece of poker software and went, that was pretty stupid. I always get all of them, and I always go across all of them. Then the next time somebody tells you, oh, that was a bad shove, you go, prove it to me. Pen and paper, please. And like, if they can prove it to you, great. Watch what they did, right? But 99 times out of 100, most people don't know what they're talking about. They're basing it on a very short framework of their hands. And you need to remember, I just went through my database. I ran, my last million hands I ran under expectation. It was like the PTB, like it was like 5 big blinds per 100. And I actually ran, like when it came to EV, and it was actually 1.1, like when it came out, which is fine because I've played however many millions of hands, and I'm sure I had a 1,000,000 hand run where I went way above expectation. But you need to remember, 1,000,000 hands is a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of guys you're talking to, especially if they're just live only players. They've only played like 50,000, 100,000 hands. So if they've run good in those particular situations, the advice they're going to give you has worked for them in the past, but mathematically isn't sound. So I want you to know, because every time I go to the WSOP, I hear a lot of guys like yelling at other guys, and it's usually the guys with like real jobs like yourself. And, a lot of these young pros, I don't know.
I berate Steve all the time, but just because it's fun. Just because it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun.
Not because I know anything. I'm aware of that, but
I always berate heroes in the community. That's what I do. But
in this spot specifically, I don't know if you mentioned the stack size of everyone else though. I'd be the sort. I would have never folded this personally, but not.
I shove, but like I like that Steve is questioning.
Right.
That's like. That is the source of all good poker. And by the way, I get to work with poker players that are like 100 times who I'll ever be. And they just, they've transitioned into, they're playing tournaments and they want to just get some of the rubrics. They are ruthlessly, I don't want to say insecure, but like, they're just like Steve at this moment. Like, I heard this and I heard that. But then what they'll do is they'll like go put it on 50 different calculators, and then they'll do, what if I have 8 big blinds and 10 big blinds and 11 big blinds and 12 big blinds and 4s and 3s and 2s and this payout structure? And then they keep a notepad of all their findings, and then they memorize it, and they're cyborgs and they scare me. But like I mean, it really does come from a place like this.
Right, but I mean, I was just going to make the point that the other people are just as scared about getting knocked out, especially late in tournaments.
True, and if there's a 5x, a 4x, a 2x, it really changes things. You can pretty soundly fold as well, especially if the min cash means a lot. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Mike.
No, this is good. I think I need to I like what you were saying about how if you can take one or two avenues as far as I think I'm going to err back towards my old ways a little bit and go for the gold, because these min catches really don't mean that much to me. I want to get the experience of final tables, and I think to get that, I got to be building a stack, especially around the bubble.
Yeah, definitely. But you want to have practice in thinking about this. So if somebody puts you in a 1K or a 2K and you know what I mean? You want to be practicing with the $50 as opposed to the 1K or 2K getting for those min cashes.
Can I ask generally about ACR? By the way, you'll find this funny. My microphone was off for 15 minutes, and I kept trying to ask questions. I'm like, these are the two rudest motherfuckers I've ever seen. I'm sitting with the mic, and I kept trying to.
I thought you were pretty quiet. I'm like, this is not like Mike. But
I kept trying to jump in there, and like Steve would just motor through. I'm like, okay, fine. Steve's like, I want my goddamn free coaching, man. Get off my nuts.
I thought you went to the bathroom or something.
Okay, my microphone's off, and I'm just itching to jump in here. No, I mean ACR. We had this conversation with another pro about if PokerStars ever comes back to the U.S., you guys are just all getting your ass kicked because I got a pretty good ROI for the American sites. So I mean, well, first of all, are you playing? Alex, you playing tournaments or cash or what are you playing? And I mean, the competition obviously has to be worse than PokerStars, I'm assuming.
Well, I think people really like to get into that. Like the .coms are so much better and ACR is so soft. ACR is softer because a lot of Americans, they put their money into a poker site and they go, well, I'm going to half pretend this is gone. And now I have a new excuse because of Black Friday that I can pretend my money is gone. Right. Whereas I think with PokerStars, just because it's so easy to get your money on and off there, and it's easy to get it on and off with ACR. In fact, with the debit cards, it takes like 2 days to get your money off, but people can pretend in their mind like, I'm playing in the States, it's gone, man, so I can gamble it away, nothing really matters. So you do see a lot of that. That being said, a lot of the like best American regs only, they didn't want to leave the United States. So a lot of times I'll play that high roller with like 7 guys who play like the 10K circuit. So if you can hold your own in that high roller, you can do fine on the .com sites. And I mean, really, it's a different game. Like PokerStars is all about min cashing. It's all about volume. Whereas ACR is more what I'm into with tournaments, which is like first gets like everything. And I love that because I think people choke at final tables when that's a factor and you can capitalize on that. And I think it's more exciting just as a fan of poker to play for a big first prize. I don't really like feeling like fifth and first are the same thing. I mean, it's absurd on PokerStars. Like I chopped the 200 rebuy in 2007 for $50,000. I think the 200 rebuy the other day was like 9K on PokerStars. And a lot of the field sizes are the exact same. They're just, they're just leveling it out. On the .com sites, you do have to be a bit more consistent. You do have to play more often. You do have to be a bit more of a machine. And I think in general, like they're more like professional, but I don't think that means they're just going to like kill everybody in the States, when they come back. I think it's going to be, and also I don't think there's going to be this gold rush in the United States that everybody asks like there's going to be. It's like, if you play like the Venetian gets a lot of like, a lot of like recreational players, and these guys can play cards. Like they're not stupid. They usually didn't make their money in another business because they were dumb. You know what I mean? That doesn't happen. They know a few things, and and I mean, just like everything, you have to run good.
Sure. I don't know if Steve had any more. I want to just talk about the scoop videos that I bought and kind of a few general questions maybe that can get into your coaching style.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you still have a few more minutes. The two big eye openers for me, I mean, I don't know if you get this, is like watching your videos is, first of all, how little I was using the HUD appropriately.
Oh yeah.
Like, I knew VPIP and CBET and 3bet and do that. And you really go into that deep. So I don't know if that's something,
no, it's
obviously it's a point of emphasis, I would think, when you're communicating with your students.
Oh, for sure. Well, it's one of those things. It's like, we used to go into like card games where, we'd have to tip the dealer like $20, like, hey, who's high?
Right.
who's really high, right? Let me know who just broke up with their girlfriend or whatever, right? And if he was like, look, $50, and for the rest of your life, I'll hand you a graph of every single thing they've ever done in every hand, and you'll be able to like watch the hands in real time. That'd be the fastest I'd ever pulled $50 out of my pocket. Like, are you kidding me? Or 100? I think with no caddy, it's. I don't know. It's been so long, man. They might have changed the prices, but yeah, it's exciting too. And if you check out, like if you watch twitch.tv/the Assassinato, see how I smoothly put that in there?
No, that's good stuff. Yeah.
If you watch my Twitch stream, which you can for free, you can see me like actually like, there was like one time like I I pulled up no caddying and I just watched every river this guy had ever played on my database. And I found, oh, he's bluffed like 5 times there. And I called with like 4th pair and like doubled up into 1K. And to me, it's really exciting because that's not like, what I just described to you is not something you couldn't figure out. It's not like something that comes after millions of hands of practice. That's just like being deliberate. That's just being, it's about being studious and it's about being a harder worker. And I can teach that. I've had like 45-year-old like German housewives go, I really like poker and I really want to win. And they can improve just as fast as like the 21-year-old whiz kid. And that is so cool because there's pretty much I don't know if there's anything else like that on earth. It's not even that way in chess because in chess, everybody you're playing against who plays seriously has been playing for 10 years. But in poker, there's a lot of guys who started winning after 6 months and they went, well, I don't need to learn anything else. And if you just do this work, you're going to crush them.
I just coached a guy, one of our listeners, about a week ago for the first time. That was my first time coaching, and
nice.
It was a lot of fun. And anyways, I'm gonna get 2 more students. What
cool.
tips do you have for coaching? What do you do that you've found that works the best? Like, do you have any?
Don't tell them you're a fireman. That'd be a good start.
I mean, honestly, real world experience is really good when you're working with like professionals in other fields because they don't want to hear everything equated to poker.
Okay.
So like if you can actually use analogies like from firefighting and like they're going to say, oh, this is someone who's like transposed their knowledge from something else onto poker. I can do the same thing. And that gives people the right perspective and gets them excited and gets them into it. My general advice, I mean, it's a lot of no-brainer crap. It's like be on time, be sober. As strange as this sounds, I'm sure this is not a problem with Steve, but as strange as this sounds, 70% of quote-unquote poker coaches cannot accomplish those first 2 goals. And no, it's crazy. They're like, I had one guy tell me, he's like, I can't coach unless I'm high. I'm like, well, how well are you coaching then? He's like, I don't know. I can't remember.
Wow.
And it's like, yeah. And it's, I mean, for a lot of people, like coaching is like, I don't think like, I think compared to like coaches in other fields, I probably would be pretty typical. It's just in poker, people, a lot of, washed up pros start coaching when they need the money. And to be honest with you, that's why I started as well. I just started getting really into it. And then my game started getting better. I would say the big thing is always leave everything, put as much information into it as humanly possible. Like just never hold anything back. There's no chance you could teach somebody in 1 hour or 2 hours everything you know about poker. Yeah. I've heard of coaches trying to like string people along. That is bizarre to me because like, if anything, I can never get across everything I want to talk about. If you go ahead of time and like pick, it could even just take 30 minutes to an hour, but just pick specific hand histories that describe what you're trying to say. That goes a long way because it shows you actually care. And it also, you cut a lot of the dead time during your lesson because it's like, okay, now look at this, as opposed to, all right, give me 1 second. 1 second.
Yeah.
Almost got it. And then,
it's here somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And then if the guy paid for, coaching, he doesn't want to like have his time wasted. So yeah, have a few hands ready. If you're really rocking and rolling, don't be afraid to like go an extra 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. I find you'll never, ever really regret it. And what you don't want to be is the guy who's like, okay, it's been 59 minutes and 37 seconds. I'm going to wrap this up. You don't want to be an American therapist, essentially. Yeah. You want to just, give them the full hour, make sure you finish the idea you're on. If that ends perfectly at 60 minutes, fine. If not, so be it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, I should probably write more about coaching because that's something I could definitely talk about ad nauseum. and it would definitely be helpful. So I'll be trying.
Have you ever had to, I don't know if how many beginners you had. Have you ever had to, I'm sure that'd be an uncomfortable spot where someone is just, you can tell they just don't have the intelligence, the work ethic they're just not going to get any better at the game?
Never happened.
It's never happened. Okay.
I swear.
I guess you inspire them to get better, I guess. Yeah.
Well, if there are certainly, like, just as someone who didn't feel like I naturally got the game at first, like I didn't, a lot of people know me as I am now, but like the first 3 years I played poker, I didn't make money. I was playing live and, I kicked it around. I had enough money to like get buy-ins and stuff, but that was about it. And like, I know what it's like to be there. And what I found is when you don't really get it naturally, you can rely on rote memorization. And all you want to do is like we were talking about with Spanish, you can either focus on 20,000 verbs that are conjugating, or you can focus on the 200 words that come up in most conversations. You want to find whatever that 200 words is. And this goes for any field you want to get better in. And then there's certain things in poker, and I try to focus on this in my training videos, that just, there are bedrock truths that if you know will give you an edge in a lot of these spots that just come up again and again and again and again. And a lot of people see these emphasized in like jam and rejam charts, but it's more than that. Like, what can you check raise versus what statistics you can check raise? And I find even if someone doesn't have like a natural aptitude at the beginning, if you just go, look, this number plus this number means the guy doesn't have it, raise it. And you actually get the guy to do it. And it actually starts working, light bulbs start turning on, and eventually what I find is a lot of these people just need more hands than most other people. And if they can just get through for those number of hands using some rote memorization techniques, they'll eventually figure it out.
Okay, that's good.
A lot of our listeners are, I think, kind of like me. They've got full-time jobs, and they have aspirations to take on poker as a career for full-time. Being somebody who's done that, what advice would you give making that transition?
I mean, the big thing is you have to treat it like your job before it's your job, and
Okay.
It's one of those things. Like, if you don't love doing it part-time, I don't think you're going to love it full-time. A lot of people think like, once I get rid of the stress in my typical job, I'm going to really love this. Well, no, when you go to playing full time, it's like playing with 9mm to your head. It's like, well, if I don't win now, it's going to be pretty bad. Whereas before, it's like, oh man, it'd be so sweet if I didn't have a boss. Well, your new boss is going to be the water bill. It's going to be the mortgage. And those are pretty demanding bosses. And I think the big thing is it's going to hurt. First of all, you have to study smarter than your opponents, because there's a lot of smart people in poker. You just go from big to small. What situations do you see all the time? I laugh my ass off when I see these people talking about these obscure river jams that are never going to come up, when really what they should be working on is opening. Like, what do I open? Why? In what situations? What HUD statistics am I looking for? And just harping on it, going on it. Recording the hands, looking at the hands, seeing if they did it right, doing it again, marking new factors, getting better at it, and then just focusing on 3-betting. Just go from one subject to one subject, study every single day. You can learn something in 10 minutes of poker study you would not learn in 10 million hands of poker, which is more hands of poker than I've ever played in my life. That is a fact. So you got to study every single day. The more, the better, and you got to play a ton. And if it sounds like it's going to hurt, it's because it does. And, I mean, there's a lot of times, like when I was working a full-time job, when I was working security, I would do 8 hours at security, and I'd come home and I'd play poker for 10 hours, and then I'd go to bed for 6. And I didn't like it. I really didn't like it. And to get set up for that shot, quote unquote, I had to work 18 hours a day as a fisherman for 2 months. So that was, it looked like, to my friends in high school, you know what I mean? Like, it looked like, wow, in 5 months, Alex became a professional poker player out of high school, but really it was a lot of 80-hour weeks. And it's, do you have any dependents?
I'm just married. That's it. We don't have any kids.
Okay. So then you got to you're going to be on the days you're on, and you got to explain, I mean, I guess the thing, Does she worry about the safety of your profession?
A little bit, yeah.
So
Yeah.
one thing you could bring up is like, look, I want to move into this other thing. If on the top end, there's a lot more money and freedom than there is in what I'm doing right now. And obviously it's much safer, but it's going to take sacrifice. So during these certain days, I'm not going to be, I'm going to be getting to bed later. I'm going to be waking up earlier. I might be a bit more irritable, but I want you to know, and that's your first job, is to always be as polite as possible to your loved ones who are giving you space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then you have to have specific days that are off limits for you to work. You're not even allowed to, preferably you're not even allowed to sit at your computer or be in front of a video screen, because you need to get a complete break. And you need to get as much value from those days as possible, if we can put this into poker terms. So you and your wife aren't going to be able to talk as much during those days. So to get away from the computer as much as possible, to relax as much as possible, you should like go hiking and talk the entire time, or something like that. And then, a lot of times, I don't know, I'm a big advocate of sleep less and work harder, study more, play more, and deliberate. It's not the hours you put in, it's what you put in the hours. You can, I played for years and didn't get better because I just wasn't into it. And there's a lot of poker players I know that are just relics of the past. I'm sure you're thinking of a few names right now as I say that. And that's the standard. That's normal. You need to have something new every day. Get sticky notes, put them on your computer. Just have 1 or 2 goals you're working on every day. Reassess, reanalyze. The other thing I really like is these MCT oils. You should check these out. They're like, I think Bulletproof Coffee makes them. I have no affiliation with these people at all, but I noticed increased cognitive function when I put this in my coffee.
Okay,
and
what's this stuff called?
It's called, there's cheaper versions and there's more expensive versions, but they all fall under MCT oil. MCT, and it's, I just find that increases, pretty much nothing works on me. Okay. Probably due to my extensive use of drugs when I was younger, but this works really well. Coffee and this, it seems to work a lot more just for focus, and you got to drink tons of water, because coffee is, even though it's high in antioxidants, it really dehydrates you. Okay. And like parts of your brain will shut down if you're dehydrated. So every break, did I drink a glass of water? Yeah. Did I drink a glass of water? Just drink a glass of water. Just pound that water. Yeah. And like just get into it, and always every break, like flick that little sticky note on your computer and go, did I pay attention to my goals this time? Am I putting more in the hours, or am I just grinding, hoping for a score?
I would have loved to hear you answer this question like 10 years ago. You would have been like, you would have been like, just get high and enjoy it, man.
Yeah, man.
And I'm like, I can do that.
Just feel
now it's hard work and
just
this and that and other thing. And it's too much shit to process.
Well, back when I started, man, if you could tie your shoes 2 times out of 3, you could crush party 400NL. But now it's like, man, I watch like, this isn't the case on like America's CardRoom, but I was watching like 50NL on Stars the other day for one of my students. I was like, these are good players. Like, these are guys that would have been beating 1000 NL 7 years ago. Yeah. These guys would have been buying their second houses and taking their wives to the opera on Thursday. Now they're playing 50 NL. You know what I mean? The other thing is, if you want to be a professional poker player, Steve, strategic relocation is another big thing. Your wife already isn't attached to the United States, but like you can, like your dollar will go much further in other countries. Yeah. Like what I make is like, it's like a middle-class income in Seattle, where I'm from, is like $105,000 is like the average income, and everything is priced to that. In Costa Rica, like middle class, I guess, would be like $15,000 a year. Wow. And yeah, exactly. So if you make, and everything kind of reflects it here. So, and then, you can get like fresh food for a lot cheaper. You can get a lot of things for a lot cheaper here. Yeah. And then you don't have to be that good to pay your bills down here, and always have savings. That's the other thing. Like, get 6 months.
Steve's got a fat life roll. He makes his own beef jerky. I really don't. That's all you need to know.
Are you serious?
Yeah, but he refuses to. When he goes to the casino, he brings his own smoothies and his own beef jerky because he refuses to pay for anything while he's there, even like $1 for the water.
I like it. No, I hate paying the casino rates for everything.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
Can I quickly ask you? I mean, I know we're probably wrapping up here, but you mentioned the drug use kind of casually a lot of times, whether it's in your writing or if I hear you on like the podcast. And was there ever? I mean, were you ever even an addict, or for you was it one of those things where you just okay, I'm sick of this shit?
No,
I mean, I know you're real spiritual.
That's really good. That's a real good question.
Because I've dealt with addiction and known other people, so it's interesting how, you kind of, not that you're hiding some major crisis in your life, but it always seems like you're real casual with that. Like, oh yeah, I was once a druggie and now I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, it's like between.
It's one of those things, I guess I say because I don't want people to think like I can't screw up. So it's definitely, I don't know. It's one of those things with my teachers. I always take everything with a grain of salt. And it's like, by the way, guys, I pissed away 7 years of my life getting high. So, if you doubt me, I'm proud of you. Go ahead and doubt me and prove me wrong. But let's see. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I can remember being addicted to something. Like most kids have like 1 Coke or 2 Coke. I would walk up to the top of the hill, get a 12-pack, and I would drink through it while playing video games. And I would stay awake till 4 a.m. I'd wake up at 7 and then do it again. And then, when I was 16 or 17, I was prescribed Adderall, and I went from that to street amphetamines to, painkillers and drinking. And then it got to a point I would smoke weed all day, and then I would drink at nights. And then when the high was getting out of control, I would take Percocet. And like when I was starting to get like paranoid. And then it got to a point, like I could always stop, like when I was in certain situations, like when I was on the tour and like I got deep in a tournament, I could stop. I might be vomiting. I might not be able to sleep, but I could do it. And then there got to be a point I couldn't stop. And it wasn't until I found my faith in Christ Jesus, my Lord and Savior. I know everybody always has to really emphasize that when they say that, but no, seriously. When I found my faith, it really... I found the strength and also the support of my wife's family, and my wife, who's probably like the toughest minded woman I know. It was, then I could stop. And then after a while, I just realized like I think I was an addict, but I also think my body couldn't handle it at a certain point. So it's one of those things. It's like, oh man, you quit without AA or anything, I guess that stuff's BS. And I'm like, well, it's pretty easy to quit drinking if every single time you drink, you get sick. It's pretty easy, It's pretty easy to stop smoking weed if every single time you smoke weed, you get super paranoid and swear the police are coming and end up like hiding in an attic for 6 hours. It's pretty easy to quit everything. But yeah, no, it was definitely, it's definitely... Yeah. Yeah, it's not something I was proud of, but yeah, I guess addict. But yeah, I mean, to this day, I drank too much coffee. I pace. I mutter to myself. Everyone's
got a vice, and those are small in comparison to what you had.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things. Like I feel like everybody's messed up now. Like I let it go because I want people to know they can talk to me about it if they want to, because I feel like I should. But like at the same time, it's like when you go to the bookstore now, it's like 90% of the books are like what happened to people during their childhood. And it's like, I mean, like if you're like at a Walmart or something like that, it's like, Jesus, man, are all of our childhoods really that traumatic? And then is it really that interesting? You know what I mean? And then everybody's an addict. And then it's like Chris Rock said, it's like being sober is what you're supposed to do. So it's like, I never want special treatment for it. It's just one of those things. When I can't remember a word for 5 minutes, I want to go, okay, there is a biochemical reason for this. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's
I'd like to read a memoir from an actress who didn't have bulimia.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or what was it? That one chick from the Brady Bunch, they were publishing her memoir, and then they were going to talk about a cocaine problem she had. And it was like, yeah, I was in Los Angeles. I did coke once. The end. It's like, wow, okay, congratulations. You have now joined every single other person from the 80s. Like, well done. But yeah, no, it's, I like to, I don't know. it's also my street cred, man. I got to bring it up. It's so yeah, but I don't know. It's weird when you actually think about it. It's like, yeah, what does that have to do with a poker conversation? Why did you let that slip in?
No, I don't. No, I don't think you're ever bragging, but I was just curious because you make it sound kind of like I said. It sounded like you transformed from like fuck up to successful guy. Kind of easier than a lot of us can. But like you said, it was a long process.
Yeah, and I mean, I just
once you actually see blood in your vomit, I guess it's easy to.
Yeah, that's easy. You speak like a man of experience.
Oh yeah, I had some. Yeah, I don't drink much anymore.
Good for you. No, it's one of those things. Like to me, I'm like so average in intelligence. Like when I say like, look, if I can do it, like go from this complete like loser, like drug addict, like like walking, like falling over myself, literally, like trying to get to the poker table, to like actually being like suburban and boring and really enjoying my life. I think anybody can. So that's one of the reasons I bring it up. But yeah, I always feel weird when it's like, it's like, who's this guy? Well, this guy, his parents put him in college. They worked really hard to put him in college. Oh, boo, so boring. This guy was a heroin addict for 20 years and he just quit. Oh, this guy's a hero. It's like, well, wait a minute. Like it's, it I don't know. It's one of those topics I think is funny right now in the American zeitgeist.
Yeah, I definitely think, I don't know if you ever follow like the WSOP coverage, the main event. You sound like one of those guys, once you get knocked out, you really don't give a shit. But they come up with the storylines, and if there's ever anyone who has like some sort of addiction or arrested for this or that, it's like people are rooting for him, I guess, which is natural anyways.
Yeah, you root for the underdog, but at the same time, it's like, man, does anybody really care? You know what I mean? Like if people go like, look, I don't care what you did, I'll be like, fair enough. Like it doesn't make you special. Like it's just like people like, oh man, I'm so exhausted. Like everybody, it's not enough for anybody to win a 50-yard dash now. They have to do it with a sprained ankle. You know what I mean? It's like, man, this guy's going deep.
Do it while they're pregnant with twins.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh man, this guy's going deep in the WSOP and he has a dark past. It's like, who doesn't now? It's like, and you root for the guy because you kind of want the guy to break through because it's a classic underdog story. And yeah, I think everybody's a little like Elvis now. Steve
won a $3 rebuy with a hangnail, and he was quite proud of that.
It was quite an accomplishment, I'll tell you.
Posted it on Reddit. Yeah. like, let's discuss this. Had pictures memorializing the feat. Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, well, like when I read like Mike Matisow's like biography, I was like, this is a sad story, you know what I mean? But like, if anything, I just, I feel so bad for the dude. And it's like, yeah, I want him to win, but more than anything, it's like, I don't know. It's like, if the guy was sober and he didn't win anything, I think that would be a bigger victory. You know what I mean? Because it seems like, it eats away at people. It's like, it's really, and I mean, the number of talent. The other reason I bring it up so casually is an amazingly high percentage of my clients deal with it. Like, I mean, if they're addictive when it comes to poker, chances are they're addictive with something else, right?
Sure.
And you watch them like, and especially once they get to like the mountaintop and they realize like there's nothing here, it's just money. If you were an asshole before money, you're an asshole after money too, and if people didn't generally, like if you couldn't talk to a woman or you weren't really that good with your family, like once you had money, all these things are just exacerbated. And now you don't know who to trust because random people are going to come out of the woodwork and it makes everything worse. And then you watch them just go to like drugs and alcohol and cheat on their wives and stuff like that. And we do a lot of work. A lot of my work is just, talking to people about that and being like, man, this isn't, like getting to be successful is not brain surgery. You wake up early, you don't drink or smoke weed the night before, so you're clear-minded and you get to work. That's about it. Like people think I have this like crazy work ethic. It's 8 to 6 every day. And I take long coffee breaks. I take hour-long coffee breaks sometimes. I take, hour-long lunches sometimes. But I'm just the only one who's putting in a normal office schedule, and I'm not hung over till 11:30. That's the state. This is the biggest edge you could get right now when it comes to poker. This is why Phil Ivey, you hear Phil Ivey doesn't smoke weed or drink or anything. You always see like Jason Somerville or Daniel Negreanu going on new no drinking bets. All of Gavin Smith's successes came when he was on a no drinking bet. Why is that? Well, maybe it's a depressant. Maybe it keeps you down. And yeah, it's just one of those things I think we need to improve on as a community. And yeah, I do root for those guys, but at the same time, it's one of those, man, we should have had our crap together to begin with, man. So we weren't coming from behind and trying to run this 50-yard dash with a sprained ankle.
Right. Yeah, the WSOP coverage of all those stories are kind of funny too, because they treat everything like a triumph. Like when Mattisau lost $1 million, through like whores and drugs and like gambling. And it's like, but look, he's back again playing this year. He's got spirit.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, going by their example, when he's 71 and just barking at people at 1-2 at the Flamingo, he'll be the most successful guy ever.
I forget. They did a piece. I forget the name of the guy. Maybe he was supposedly, they had a big cover story. Like 20 years ago, he was the most successful gambler ever. And he had like a $50 million bankroll. And they talked about how now he was like playing 1-2 craps or something. And he's like, this was on ESPN. And he's like, well, I still got the action. So it's like they were treating it like, hey, he hasn't backed down. He's kept doing what he's doing.
Yeah. And it's like, I think it was Johnny Moss who they saw in I think it was like a 5-10 game, right? And back when Johnny Moss would play anything and everything. They're like, what are you doing, Johnny? And he's like going senile. And he's like, it's still action, isn't it? And it's like, man, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard. The whole point about poker is taking as much money as you possibly can because it's a meritocratic structure and then taking it to something else, something that isn't gambling. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I root for these guys, but I want them to kind of like get out. You know what I mean? Like, I would love it if Mike Mattisau just bought a new house and like, you know what I mean? Like just bought a house and played once in a while for fun but got some savings. Lord knows he's had enough money to do that in Las Vegas probably 30 times by now.
Sure.
He's like what houses down there. Well, I guess it's rebounding now, but certainly for many years, like houses there were a steal. And then, you put a little money away, you just learn how to cook at home. Man, the guy's good for years, you know what I mean? And yeah, then he can take like free roll stakes if he wants, you know what I mean? And just play once in a while. I'd be more proud of that than this guy's in the main event. He needs to win this to pay back 2 of his backers.
Right.
That seems to be where we're going as an industry, and it's kind of weird.
Those stories are interesting, though. I do like those fights at the cage stories, I got to say.
Oh my God, yeah.
Steve just follows a strategy, and I like hearing about, I forget what was the one last year where Jeff Lissandro was choking Brandon Cantu or something like that, trying to get some money off him. But yeah,
nice. I mean, you get to that point though, you wouldn't believe these guys, man. It's like they owe you money. They're holding the money in their hand. They're like, yo, man, I got to pay back these other guys. Well, tough, man. Like. I mean, what does that have to do with me? And it's like, I've had guys tell me like, yo, man, I want to wait till I'm comfortable. I'm like, that's not the prerequisite for paying me back. The prerequisite is you have the money. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you have the money quite clearly right now. Yeah. And you're not paying me. It's
do you have any horses right now? Or are you?
No, I got done with all. I mean, here's the thing. Like, one of my friends did one of the most intelligent things. His name Gabriel Diaz. He's like, everybody wants me to back them, but he's like, he's got some other business interests. He's like, they say like it's a good business, and I look at them like they're nuts. He's like, this is not a business. I can sell a business if it's more successful. And I was like, man, that is, that's deep. And it's like, it's true because like what happens when you back is you have a guy like make money. You have a guy make 100,000, you get 50,000, he drops you and goes off on his own. If the guy sucks and he loses 100,000, he stays with you and keeps losing till the end of time, and you earn all that 100K debt. So the only people who can do it are these like conglomerates I work with that are really vigilant about they're really vigilant about cutting people. They're really vigilant about managing the makeup. And like getting them tons of coaching and tons of help. And most of these people like live. The other thing is, well, I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of these guys, like they would come to me. It's like, man, I need some money. It's like, I need some living expenses. It's like, get a job. Like, what makes you special? Like, so you told everybody you're a poker pro. Now you can't make money. Now you think you're above getting a job. Go work. I would be more proud of you if you worked out as a checkout clerk at a Safeway than I would be, and it always ends up like people are bummed. I don't care if they bum like $300 off me or 500, right? But then it gets to the point, it's like, man, they need money for their baby mama. They need money for their mortgage. Need money for this. Need money for that. They want to travel to this tournament. Oh, you're not letting me play the 10Ks. How am I ever supposed to get out of makeup? I'm going to put on a puss, and I'm going to play for 3 days really poorly. Now there's more makeup. Now I'm in a worse. And it's like, at some point I was just like, I'm sick of this, man. I don't have time to manage you guys. And the problem with most backers is they assume the people they're backing are going to be like themselves. The problem being most people who are backing other players don't need backing because they're responsible. And the people who need backing need it because they're not responsible. So what you're looking for is a fantastic player who also happens to be a drug addict on the weekends and is dumping the money at the end. And it really feels like exploit because if they're really good, they usually get the money and then they leave you. You're looking for a guy who has horrible life habits and then is also, but can still make the money. That's really hard to find. The only way you can do it like...
You're looking for a Stu Unger.
Yeah, exactly. You're looking for Stu Unger, honestly. And that's with high stakes, though. With low stakes, it's much more fun. Because, like, okay, one player out of 120 in $5 tournaments, like, drops out and steals a couple $100 from you. You can write that off pretty quick, right? That's not like one 10K horse out of 5, you know what I mean? And then... it's much more fun. You get to do the group lessons, and a lot of these guys are from like Romania or Latvia or something, and they make $5,000, and they like own the town square and the fountain in the center. And it's, they go, oh man, this is I just bought my parents a house, man. It's amazing. Thank you so much. As opposed to, I don't know. I got a lot of attitude when I did it in Western Europe. Excuse me. I'm done talking. Excuse me. I'm done.
Do you have any plugs you want to give us here?
Yeah, you got we can put in some links in the show notes and stuff. So do you want to plug your Twitter and One Outer and all that?
Yeah, sure thing. Be sure to check out my podcast, guys, at oneouter.com. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at the Assassinato. If you guys have questions about anything you heard here, you want to check out anything else we have going on, write us at assassinatocoaching@gmail.com and feel free to bug my assistant with any inquiry you have. We will eventually get back to you. It does take a couple days, so don't be offended if we don't write back within 15 minutes, but we get back to pretty much everyone. Follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/theassassinato. And if you look underneath that stream, even if I'm not streaming, there's a ton of every deal we have going on right now is underneath there. And I have this philosophy, like, since you guys support me, I should support you. And it seems to, like, feed off of that good vibe. And, like, we get a lot of deals for you guys. Like, one is the Cardrunners. That's where I do my training videos. Use promo code FREEMONTH, all capital letters. You get 80% off. So it's $30 for 2 months access to 2,000 plus videos. And, if you check out my twitch.tv/theassassinato, you can see, like, every deal we have on every piece of poker software, on, like, webinars and stuff like that. And, yeah, be sure to follow my blog at pokerheadrush.com where you can read me ranting about people overcharging me on a cup of coffee for 20 cents and why I think that's the downfall of civilization, Chinese dystopian fiction, battle rap, movies, and, of course, tons of poker strategy. And, when and where I do have a new rap battle will be coming out there.
Okay. And the chapter, your first novel, hopefully will be on Pokerhead Rush free. We won't have to, get a glimpse before we.
It's a good idea. I was thinking of making like a lead-in thing that could be free, like just like you know what I'm saying? What you're talking about, like 30 pages, just to let people know, like, hey, man, I like him in nonfiction, but he's a hack in fiction, man. I'm not picking this up. Or, hey, I dig this, and then, it'll be up there, too, as well. Cool. Excuse me, guys, for continuing to cough.
No problem, man. It's been great fun.
Yes, well, thank you for coming on, Alex. That was awesome.
Thank you for having me. It was a great time.
Yeah. And you can follow us on Twitter at HUP Podcast. Heads up pokerpodcast.blogspot.com for our blog. email us, headsuppokerpodcast@gmail.com, and you can like us on Facebook at Heads Up Poker Podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and here is your weekly motivational speech.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Beyond measure.
I'm gonna show you how great I am. Last night I cut the light off in my bedroom, hit the switch, was in the bed before the room was dark. I'm gonna show you how great I am. Only last week I murdered a rock, injured a stone, hospitalized a brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick. I'm gonna show you how great I am.
This kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew.
I'm gonna show you how great I am. I have wrestled with an alligator. I done tussled with a whale. I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail. I'm gonna show you how great I am. All of you chumps are gonna bow when I whoop him. All of you. I know you got him. I know you got him picked, but the man's in trouble. I'm gonna show you how great I am.
But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame. Like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Because if you're willing to go through all the battling you gotta go through to get to where you want to get, who's got the right to stop you? I mean, maybe some of you guys got something you never finished, something you really want to do, something you never said to someone, something. And you're told no, even after you pay your dues. Who's got the right to tell you that? Who? Nobody. It's your right to listen to your gut. It ain't nobody's right to say no. After you earn the right to be where you want to be and do what you want to do. Now, if you know what you're worth, then go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.